Hello, everyone, and welcome to Counselor Feature Friday. I'm your host, Brian Urban. In these features, we hope to give you some simple tips, tidbits, and tricks to make your days easier and your patients happier. In this feature, we're going to talk about the AR Aging Summary, or otherwise known as the Accounts Receivable Aging Summary. This feature is available under Business, and then off to the right here under AR Aging Summary. This is where you can find any amount due to your practice, right, or any credits that may be due perhaps to patients. So when you click on the AR Aging Summary, you'll see there are a lot of options available. First off, there's the AR type. This is specifically the amount that is split out to see where it's due. For example, when you create an invoice, perhaps all of it is due from insurance, right? Or all is due from the patient, or maybe there's a combination. Maybe you have private pay and insurance on the same invoice. This basically lets you split that out. Or you can look specifically at credits, amounts that your clinic perhaps owes to a patient, maybe for a refund. You also can see specifically accounts receivable related to quote invoices, right? So these are invoices that you have in the quote status that maybe haven't moved forward, or for some reason you want to keep them in the quote status. You can identify them from here as well. Okay, now if we go down the line here, we can see payer type. Now this is going to be custom to your practice, right? You might have fewer items than this. You may have more items than this, or more options than this, but it allows you to be specific based on how the invoice payer type is set. Okay, so the prime differentiation here is this is specifically looking at the invoice payer type. That's on the invoice info tab where the payer type is set. Okay, next we can look at when either all invoices or when an invoice may have been sent out to the patient already. As you may know, when invoices are sent, the sent date can be updated. And then, of course, we can essentially do filtering here. We can basically say, show me, what hasn't been not sent with it in 7 days, or hasn't been sent in 60 days, or maybe just anything that hasn't been sent at all, right? So this tool gives you the ability to probably get in a rhythm with your accounts receivable and making sure that you're not sending invoices too frequently, right? If you just sent it 5 days ago, you likely don't want to send it again. And so you can use the filters to help, stay on top of that. Of course, you also can look at the age of the accounts receivable. So you can basically break that down if you want to see different time periods, for example. Okay, so you can do as much or as little as you want there. If you are using the regions feature, of course, you can sort by region as well here, and that will automatically designate specific clinics. Or you can, of course, go through the process just picking the specific clinics that you wish to look the AR up for, look the AR up regarding that clinic. And same thing with staff. So I'm going to leave these wide open and then go ahead and just click Run Report. Then we're going to see the report at the bottom. This breaks it down by patient, but it's important to note that a single patient may have multiple invoices with amounts due, right? So in this case, I left this as any type due. Of course, I could have searched just by insurance or patient due, and that would have changed the results here as well. But here we can see, for example, this patient, there's at least one invoice, or could be multiple within this time range, 1 to 30 days, and there's another one that's 61 to 90 days. And so if you click into any one of these, what you'll notice is that it will launch in a new tab. So we can see what's happening for that specific patient. We can see across the different invoices. Of course, you can click into individual invoices. You also can bring open the ledger if you want to kind of do some more investigation from there, right? And then your original tab is still open, right? So you can pop back to the same search results and go through one by one. Now, if you want to do more with this information, you can click on Actions in the top menu bar. And of course, you could download this to a spreadsheet. You also can download the statements. So if you want to print out the statements that are all included in these search results, maybe you want to print out the envelopes related to those patients, or labels, or you also maybe want to print out letters. Maybe if you're searching for patients that have debt that's greater than 61 days, maybe you want to include a letter talking about the urgency of making payment or the possible consequences. Of course, you can also download postcards from here, and you could send emails from here. So let's click on that last option. Within the email, like elsewhere in Counselor, you're able to view which patients have and do not have email addresses. You can pick your template, right? So I'm just going to grab something random here, the open invoice one. And then at the bottom, you have some options here. So you can note If you have paying online available, you can add a link to each invoice where the patient can then click on it and make a payment. And that can be a very quick way of capturing accounts receivable or decreasing your accounts receivable, capturing payments very quickly through the online payment option. You can also, and this would be a very important one, update the statement sent date, right? So that way when you send these out, every invoice involved in this has their sent date updated. And so that way when you go back in later and you do more filtering by the last sent date, would then be excluding ones potentially that you don't want to send to, right? So it gives you a way to really stay on top of that. Back in the email here, the last thing is that you can add a note to the patient record. This is also really handy. You add a note to the patient record stating what's been sent. So if you do have an instance where a patient calls in and says, I received your email, right, and I have a question, anyone on staff can look in that patient's patient notes section, see that invoice 123 was sent, and right away you can have a conversation with that patient. Or if you recognize perhaps I'm not the best person to speak with this patient about the invoice, you can make arrangements for them to speak to the proper person, right? So you can kind of address their concerns most appropriately and most efficiently. All right, so of course, if you have any questions about the ER Aging Summit, please feel free to reach out to the counselor support team. We're always happy to help. So give us a call, email us, live chat with us. But thank you very much for joining us for today's Feature Friday on the Accounts Receivable Aging Summary.